marketing. Marketing is getting the message out so
Yeah.
you can help people and get some, cash to help yourself too. It's mutually beneficial, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so marketing is just making sure that you're not.
So when I'm speaking about digital marketing, I'm talking about it from lived experience in two places. I specialized in search engine optimization, but I also worked a lot with web developers to build websites. And also I dealt a lot with social media. And so I was plugged into different teams, and I really watched the rise of social media go from genuinely being something that people thought was just a fad, especially for business. They just were like, yeah, it's not going to be a big deal, to like the world we exist in now, where social media is a hugely influential part of like our day-to-day, whether we like it or not.
Hey, it's Daniel, and you are about to watch a clip from our free podcast, The Coach's Journey, where we help you navigate the surprisingly difficult path of building a coaching business by people who are actually doing it. And we go live, raw and unedited every week in our free Facebook community. Hello, Coaches Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Coach's Journey podcast. I'm Daniel Fernandez, and I'm here with Briony. I always do that. Briony Gunson. Tell me, make sure I got that pronounced right. Is it
You
Briony?
did, yes. Briony.
Yeah, I know how to pronounce it, but I always read it the other way in my mind. Briony Gunson, who is an expert on digital marketing. And we're here to talk about digital marketing for coaches, especially in the earlier stages of coaching. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Briony. And I want to start off with, let's start off with the mistakes. Like, what are maybe some of the mistakes that coaches make with their digital marketing in the early stages of coaching, maybe even in the later stages too, but what are some of the big mistakes that you see? Let's start talking about those.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so something that I feel like I observe a common pattern are two things. One is initially people massively overthinking their content, and either being in this place of like perfectionism and really like overthinking their graphics, overthinking their copy, hesitating. And to be honest, I can still do this as well. Ending up in the space of like thinking, and there's not much actual output happening. And what I would say is clarity comes with time, and it's through repetition of continuously showing up and getting our message out there that we start to refine it. So that's the first mistake in terms of.
Let's stop there, because that's a big one. That's a big. I think a lot of coaches can really relate to like, oh, I gotta get this content post. People are gonna see this. They're gonna see me in this particular way. And I think it's really powerful to say like, hey, it's really easy. I want coaches to feel validated. It's like super easy and very common for coaches to go down deep rabbit holes of like planning and thinking and overthinking and graphics and stuff and all the stuff. And what topic am I posting? Okay, I'm not ready to do this yet, and not actually posting anything. Right. And so before we jump into a little more of this one, maybe we share a little bit with us about your background in digital marketing and some of the things that your philosophy, what you believe in.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. And so when I'm speaking about digital marketing, I'm talking about it from lived experience in two places. So I started working out in digital marketing back in 2010. And as you can tell by the accent, I live in the UK. And I sort of yo-yoed between London and Manchester, and I was working at big marketing agencies. And I specialized in search engine optimization, but I also worked a lot with web developers to build websites. And also I dealt a lot with social media. And so I was plugged into different teams, and I really watched the rise of social media go from genuinely being something that people thought was just a fad, especially for business. They just were like, yeah, it's not going to be a big deal, to like the world we exist in now, where social media is a hugely influential part of like our day-to-day, whether we like it or not. And then back in 2019, I left that corporate world behind, and I started working for myself as a coach. So I'm a mindset coach. I'm also a breathwork facilitator and trainer, and I coach people privately. And I also offer business coaching to coaches, space holders, and I also run corporate training. Now, interestingly, when my sort of journey, just very briefly, into getting into coaching was really because I had struggled a lot with my mental health due to stress at work. And I did a fantastic job of hiding it from anyone. Like, I didn't want anyone to know I was struggling. And really this whole like dark night of the soul, having a breakdown, which then became a breakthrough back in my late 20s, meant that it's kind of got me onto the path of meditation and then coaching, like understanding the power of the mind, and then into breath work. Anyway, but basically when I left the corporate world behind, I was a little bit like, thank God, I'm done with that. Like, no disrespect to the corporate world. I just was like, I was ready. And it took me a long time to kind of gather up the courage to take that leap. Interestingly, after a few years of me employing the skills I developed in digital marketing to grow my own brand and business, I increasingly had other coaches around me being like, oh, Briony, could you help me with your website, or my website? Like, oh, Briony, could you help me with my social media? And initially I felt a lot of resistance because I was like, I have left that world. No, I'm done. But actually I realized that there was so much joy I felt in helping people like carve out their little space online. And because I really saw the power and obviously the benefit of being able to show up and to tell people about what you do. So it wasn't just like selling for the sake of it. It's like, if we really care passionately about what we do and the services we have and how important this work is, we want to get ourselves out there, especially as coaches. We have to practice what we preach, get out of our own way and like show up, right?
But I love the journey that you shared. And you always go through this adversity to come out on the other side. Like that's a normal part of, I think, coaching development. So for those coaches out there who are having adversity right now, that's like, oh God, journey, part of your story. So that could feed up the digital marketing conversation too. Totally. I apologize for the interruption. You were going to continue with something. Go ahead.
Yes, a worthy interruption. So essentially, I started realizing there were lots of skills I had that could support coaches, and the combination of helping people not only with the practical knowledge and in terms of what tools, what platforms should they use, thinking about their target audience and their messaging and their copy, like how to sell, like, what about their pricing? Like there was so much experience I had in the corporate world working with really big international brands, but also small startups. That meant that I could just really easily apply this to the world of coaching and breathwork and space holders. So I work a lot with therapists as well in terms of helping their online presence. So so I kind of like fell back into digital marketing, which wasn't originally part of the plan, but actually I do feel very passionately about doing that because I can see, like, I've helped people leave careers they're not that jazzed about, to go full time and doing what they love in terms of coaching. I've supported people being able to like really grow their income, so they're not stuck in this place of like they're earning just enough to get by, but they're kind of constantly dropping back down because that's a really tiring place to be. So so essentially that's
basically the point of marketing. Marketing is getting the message out so you can help people and get some cash to help yourself too. It's mutually beneficial, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The marketing is just making sure that you're not invisible.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, interestingly, I'm a meditation teacher as well. And for me, marketing, it kind of ties beautifully into awareness, right? We want to practice cultivating awareness. And if we're not surfacing our brand, our message, our products, our services with repetition and cultivating that awareness, people just don't know you exist, right? So, and it depends on where we want to go in terms of which channels and depending on our audience, so we can be strategic with that, so we're not harassing people. But ultimately, we want to, practice recognizing the importance of raising awareness of like who we are and what we do.
Yeah, and that's a great point about like the connection between meditation. Like meditation, we talk about self-awareness within, like awareness of your thoughts and all that. But with marketing, we're talking about other people's awareness of you and your services and what's going on. And you have to stay in their view in order to stay visible, right? And so I think there's a habit of advertising. Whether you do it social media or digital marketing or even just word of mouth or networking, there's lots of different ways you can do this. But the point you're really implying is you need to build the reps and have the habit of being visible, right? And to go back to our first big mistake of overthinking it, like how do you connect that with this?
You mean in terms of how do I connect that? Like the overthinking?
Make the connection for people listening today between like not overthink. How do you go from overthinking to being visible?
Totally. Yeah, definitely. So I would say it's like, it will be like building a muscle in terms of the repetition piece, right? Because I also used to, there was a part of me that felt like I was bothering people, like I'm annoying them with my content. And which, as a side note, it's important to start to, again, have an awareness of what are the blocks there, the mental blocks, the stories we're telling ourselves about how people are pissed off with us, or they don't like us, or they're judging us, or they don't care. Like, just start to get to know you, and what comes up as you're stretching outside your comfort zone. It's important to notice them and then learn to work with those stories to move through them. But I would say
you're really talking about being authentic. I think it's really what you're getting at, right? Because like, it's really hard to say what we want to say if we feel we're going to be judged.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we're going to get the haters, or feel we're going to be seen or looked at in a negative way.
Yes.
And I usually find that as a sign of like, maybe you're actually being more authentic,
Yeah.
You're saying what you really feel and think and believe.
Yes.
You may actually draw more eyeballs, but you'll also attract the right people and repel the wrong people.
Yeah. And ultimately, there's so much content out there. When we're being authentic, there is like a quality of that communication, which people can feel. So even if they're not that into you, they can sense there's some authenticity there. And especially as coaches, it obviously depends on the clientele you want to attract. For me personally, and this is just for me, like I'm not too bothered about having this like highly polished, coiffed image, right? Because I'd much rather just be a real 3D person. And that's something that then it not only makes making content easier, because I'm not fretting and worrying about like, how do I look? And like, what is the background like? And like, is this totally perfect? Yes, consistency is important for like the visuals. And yes, over time, we do want to like level up in terms of like branding and like, making a bit more of an effort with our content. But I would say like, just get started. It's okay if it's a little bit messy. It's okay if it's more lo-fi in terms of like low fidelity. It's, just practice getting yourself out there, get over that internal block of sharing and showing up and being seen. And it's through that repetition, you'll start to get clearer about, what messages are you passionate about? Who do you want to serve? You practice storytelling, which will actually benefit you inside your coaching. If you can clearly communicate your story and like what's important to you. So essentially we can see the social media space or marketing online as just an extension, of what your coaching can be. So it can be very authentic. You don't have to overthink things. You can just literally practice showing up being you. Like imagine just being paid to be you. Like if that's an incentive, like just can that be okay?
Yeah, I love that. And you're kind of getting at the idea of like an art form, right? Like it's like, okay, you want to be an artist, like there's a billion different ways to do art, right? Like you're probably gonna have to explore a few of them to really get a feel for what you like, right? Especially if this is art is to be shared with people. So like your content is just like practicing art in public, right?
Yeah.
And
totally.
I think there's a beauty to being able to do that when you realize like most people aren't going to see it, and then it's going to get buried, and then you can just start over if you don't like what you did.
Yeah. And I think that ties back into the, not overthinking things too much. Because even if you're just really honest with yourself and say like, what do you remember that you saw on social media in the last like 2 weeks? There could be like, there might be like,
nothing.
Virtually nothing. Right. So it's like, it's so transient. It's so like ephemeral. So don't worry too much. Like on one hand, don't worry too much, but then it's a bit of a paradox. Like don't worry too much, but at the same time, like enjoy that repetition. Like you said, treat it like an art form. And something that I know from my digital marketing days, and another business coach shared some recent research, is that typically a person will take 21 exposures from being someone who doesn't know who you are, like no previous knowledge of you, to then actually converting. So that's like 21 exposures. Like they could see you comment on something, they could see a reel, they might see your story, they might get an email, then they see a reel, and it just 21 exposures, right? And this ties into another mistake. So often I'll share with my clients, my coaching clients, I'll really try to invite them to be honest with themselves when it comes to their successes and their failures, right? For example, a breath worker might be putting on an event and they don't really get the ticket sales that they wanted. And then afterwards they're like, oh, maybe I'm just not like cracked up to do this and all the rest of it. And we're like, well, let's just go back over your process. And how many times did you market this? Not from a place of shame or judgment or blame, just being really honest with ourselves. Like, have we been promoting this as much as we could? And the answer is always no. right? And I think that's where, if we're just honest with ourselves, like, and I talk about banging the drum, like keep banging the drum. And, you know, you really want to get to a point where you feel comfortable banging that drum, like telling people you have a business, it's open, they can buy from you, this is what you're doing. And if people are annoyed by that, they'll just unfollow you or mute you, you know? So it's like, keep showing up, obviously with authenticity, and like practice continuously selling, because you're going to strengthen that muscle and get over those internal blocks.
Yeah, it's actually, you know, there's this tension here, and that's not even really tension. You're just kind of resolving it, which is like, oh, I want to put out quality content. Don't worry about the quality as much. Just worry about the consistency and the frequency of which you're putting visible things out in the world. Whether it's the handshakes that you're doing in networking events, or whether it's the posts you're doing on your platform, or wherever it is you're getting exposure. It's more about consistency and the practice of the use of your voice to refine your voice, right? Clarity actually comes through action. You clarify better and better what your voice actually is because you're utilizing it. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And that ties into another mistake that I see coaches doing early on in their journey, which I also used to do, which was this avoidance of really narrowing down who they want to be serving and like who they want to speak to in their marketing. And people talk about niches very often, or having a very specific like client avatar, like who's your one person that you want to serve. And I remember sort of much like when I was just really starting, I was like, oh, but I want to help everyone. I want to help everyone. And that's just not true. That's just not true. I mean, bless the very lovely altruistic part of us that's like, I want to help everyone, you know, and obviously deep down, yes, at a fundamental level, like I wish all
as a human being,
I wish all beings well.
Yeah.
I wish all beings like health, wealth, and happiness and peace. And also it's just in with regards to my business, initially I was very, very open about who I would talk to and the type of work I would take on. And then just over time, it became clearer, like, I just don't know if I'm actually best placed to serve some of those people. So that's an important point, is to understand our remit, and based on our expertise and our training, and also what we want to hold space for, get clear on what those boundaries are. And I was quite clear on who I felt I could serve. So I didn't overstep in that way. But I remember just having a few conversations with different people, and just the place that they were at on their journey, the type of work that they needed and the support they needed, it just didn't really light me up. Like I could support them, but when I was really honest with myself, it just didn't really fire me up. So I was like, okay, well, that's okay. We don't have to please everyone. We don't have to serve everyone. But it just helped me get honest with myself about who I really wanted to serve. And chances are, if we feel a draw to that particular person or audience, there's a reason why, you know, like we have a message for them, or there's something about our lived experience or how we show up in the world that's going to really speak to them. So I think giving ourselves permission, if anyone's kind of floating around like, oh, I want to help everyone, like just like get really honest with yourself and more focus on like, who are the people that actually, when you have those conversations, you feel super alive, you know, and you come away from a coaching session and you feel like energized, not depleted from that session. And I think that gives important clues.
This is really important too. I think what you're talking about actually, I think, is like an energetic niche. Right? It's like, it doesn't have to be a specific industry even. It can be like a certain type of energy that you get from coaching. And I think this is true that coaches are notorious for like wanting to help everybody and not actually helping anybody because not focused, whether it's focused on the right kinds of people or even just focused on the business actions they need to take on a consistent basis, like putting themselves out there, for example. But the challenge in niching or narrowing down, there's multiple challenges. One of them is emotional, as we're talking about. But the challenge with coaches is a lot of them don't have enough experience to even recognize what is better and what is worse. So if you're not out there coaching enough people, get out there coach enough people. If you can't get paid, do it for free. Whatever you need to do to get experience, to coach enough to be able to course correct, to be able to adapt and evolve and divert in a particular direction. And as you figure out like that niche a little bit more clearly, or that energetic niche, I'm going to call it, because I don't even want to say you have to pick a traditional niche, but there's some kind of grouping that you will end up focusing on. I don't want to have to call it a specialty, but yeah, okay, your cup of tea or whatever you want to call it, because I know you're British. So like you can go in that direction and you can change it. So if you start down and like, oh, I really want to work with these kinds of people, you'll probably find you're gonna just evolve a little bit in the other direction, a little bit in this direction. And over time, if you're committed to this for the long term, and in CMC, coaching mastery community, we always tell people like this is a long-term game, coaching. Yeah. It's like if you want to get in it for a short while, you're not really committed to the career, it's gonna be really, really hard. And it's already hard even if you are committed. So it's gonna be even harder. But we want people to think of this as a career path, as like a long-term career. And if you have that view, then you're gonna want to show up every day like you would in your job if you were in corporate to build your career over time. And like when I first started my corporate career, I did not know where it was going, and I had no intentions. Like, okay, I got this interview. Let me take the job. Then I got somebody who wanted to promote me somewhere. Okay, I'll just go there, and I'll just like flow wherever it goes. And that's not necessarily like a great way to shape an intentional career. It's a great way to get a lot of random experience, which can serve you well as well. I'm not gonna say that that's not great, but like getting in touch with what lights you up, as you said, and what creates value, and especially the coaching industry. What are people gonna pay you for? Right? That's an important piece of it too, that can help guide your path. But feel free to evolve your niche over time, and make sure you're getting enough coaching experience to know what that might maybe look like if you take a step in that direction.
I am totally, with your permission, I will steal that energetic niching later.
Yeah, by all means.
Thank you, because like you've just really helped me. I'm like, yes, it's more of an energetic niche, because when I say niche down, I'm always hesitant to use that title, because I think for me it's been more refining over time of like who I don't want to serve. And then I've never really fully felt comfortable with like identifying. I do have a single person in mind when I speak in my marketing a lot of the time. However, I've felt that like it is more of a quality of that type of person. So where I'm at now with my clients that I am attracting and working with are people who there's a book by an author called David Brooks called Second Mountain.
Yeah, I love the concept of that book.
Yes. And then so for me, that really helped me just crystallize. I'm like, oh my God, this is already what I'm doing with my coaching. So it's like, for those who aren't familiar, the idea of the second mountain is the first mountain in life is where we're following, this is my corporate career, probably yours as well, Daniel. We're following the path that life sets out in front of us. We are doing all the things, we're ticking the boxes. We get the job, maybe get the degree, get the job, get the house, get the partner, the family, the marriage, tick, 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 tick. And then you reach a point, you're like, I've done all of the things. And then you might feel like, I'm not wildly happy, or I don't feel content, or like this isn't enough.
It didn't get me where I thought I was going, supposed to get.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So then the second mountain David Brooks talks about is where we really start to carve our own path. We start to get much clearer of like what actually really matters to us. And this may include leaving behind like the first mountain, like so much of what we've created, it may no longer feel like who we are, but we take with us the experience of the first mountain to like carve our own path, and to decide now, like, how do we really want to contribute to ourselves, to our community, to like life in a bigger way. So that really helped me to sort of frame my own lived experience. And I'm working a lot with people who are on that second mountain, who are just at the beginning. So they've already achieved quite a bit of success. They're in this place of like wanting more, but they don't really know what that is. And it can feel uncomfortable and scary or unsettling. And maybe they're scrambling back to the first mountain. Like, are you sure it's not okay over here? So yes, so thank you for the energetic niching message, because that for me resonates.
Yeah, that's a great book. One of the ways I like to think about, layer on top of that book, and he talks about this a little bit in the book, which is the first mountain is a lot of like building yourself up in a way that, like you're expected to build yourself up. Like it's kind of like a little more self-focused. And then the second mountain is where you kind of connect to a greater purpose or a greater contribution, right? Like it's like all this inward, like for me, development that I did in my first mountain. And now my career has shifted into like, how can I make a difference? And not that I didn't have both of those things on both of the sides of the journey, but it's like the focus has shifted. Like the primary drive is a little different. And a lot of the time there's a tension with that. And like, oh, how do I make money to make sure that I can continue doing it? It's a sustainability question for coaches. And I love this. It's kind of like parallels the human evolution towards a more spiritual fulfillment, right? Like we start out not spiritually fulfilled because we're sort of building ourselves up in what we think we're supposed to be doing. But to get more spiritual fulfillment, you have to actually follow that inner voice and that inner calling, or that inner, even I would say, sense of choice that we are all given to be able to choose and to find out what is really meaningful. And and for me, it's like what matters, what makes a difference, and what lights me up in the process, so that I can keep on doing. Because if it's something that matters, makes a difference, yeah, I can go do that. But if it's not sustainable for me to keep doing, because I don't like it, I'm gonna hit a wall at some point. I got to find a way to love that second mountain for myself too. So there's an overlap between the two mountains, I think, in some ways. But it's a really common experience for people to have that first mountain end up where, like, not where you thought you were supposed to be.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, there's so much value, all of that lived experience we can take with us, you know, for the second mountain. And what you said there as well touched upon like another mistake that I see coaches doing, which is like not maintaining that clarity on what really does drive them. And a bit like how you said, like our our niche will evolve over time. I also feel like our primary drivers, like they also may like twist and shift and change a little bit, but we want to kind of like keep it in our sights, you know, in terms of like, why am I really doing this? Like, what am I showing up for? Why is this important? Because if we're not keeping that in some way front of mind, you know, when we get tired, when we're maybe not getting the clients we want, like maybe the cash flow is looking kind of patchy, we get like a few rejections, or, you know, things happen, right? And our confidence may get knocked, and then we may get those voices that come in like, see, you said you'd never do it, and like you can't make it, or whatever will happen internally. The fears, doubts, and worries can get really loud. And it's at times like that we want to pause and recenter ourselves and practice thinking like, why am I even doing this? To anchor really deep into that. Because there were moments like early on in my coaching journey, because I also started in the summer of 2019, and then obviously it's the pandemic by like the March 2020. And on one hand, because of the connections I had and knowledge around supporting people's mental health in the workplace, meant that actually I had a lot of work on, because people were really struggling with their mental health. I was still finding my feet with my own coaching. And I remember having like some really challenging moments, because the pandemic was challenging at points personally. And I was also like still trying to grow my business, and having these moments of just like, it all felt like so much. And it's of those moments of like, you know, literally being like crying on the floor, like, I can't do this, having those moments, and then being like, oh, you know, then the next morning kind of picking myself back up again and reminding myself like, hey, it's all part of the journey to have these big wobbly moments. And like, but the thing is I was super clear, I am not going back. Like the only way is forward. I have burnt the boats in the bay. So I can pause here and there and like crumble and have a big cry. I'm definitely a crier, and it's a way stress leaves my body. So have a big cry, get it out, and then be like, okay, like what do I need to help myself ground and recenter, and then to like lift myself back up again. So yes, so clear on those primary drivers is so incredibly important, like those bigger goals, those bigger visions, the ways in which we know we help people, like, and to focus on others. Like if that also helps me when I'm feeling like lost or low, to almost forget about myself and remember who I've helped and served and the changes I've made, and be like, okay, so like go and do more of that, like rather than being in a little pity party for one.
Yeah, and that goes back to something we talked about before, which was action. Action will light the path, even if you don't know what the action is. Like, and like let's get a little bit practical here. Like maybe we can talk to coaches about like some ways to think about. Like, say they're doing social media, right? Let's say they're doing, what would be like should they be doing 3 buckets of social media? Should they just be saying what they feel every day? You know, like what let's say we're posting on a like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. They're wherever they are, like, how would you guide them to like get them to think about being consistent with social media? Like, what would they think about? What's a great framework they can use? Okay, if I just do this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe something that you can give them makes it easier.
Yeah, sure. Firstly, like you said earlier, I think like agreeing with ourselves a certain level of consistency. So maybe it's like, if it's on LinkedIn, say maybe posting once a week, like start that as the beginning. Don't do like 3 times a week if you've not been posting at all, because you're going to freak yourself out and overwhelm yourself. So it's like, start nice and simple, once a week. Two things come to mind. One is thinking about your own process for capturing content. Now, I'm a big fan of WhatsApping myself. And if you don't know, you can. You can send yourself WhatsApp messages.
Yeah.
But you can also email yourself. Just find some way of tagging things so it's easy to find. But I often will invite my clients to reflect on, like, where do they get their best ideas, right? And now chances are people are thinking about their businesses quite a lot of the time and just naturally reflecting. So say if you get your ideas when you're like out for a walk, or, you know, taking the dog around the block, or going for a drive. Be careful using your phone though. Like capture those ideas, right? Even if it's just in the supermarket, just WhatsApp yourself. Like, I do this all the time. Send myself like little chunks of information. And then I would say sit down like every 2 or 3 days or once a week to like just go through those ideas. Find a process that works for you. Is it, say, one Google Doc to rule them all? Is it like a Google spreadsheet? Is it a note on your phone? Somewhere where you're kind of capturing that. So you have a repository basically of content. You have something you can check in. So you're not sat there thinking, I've got to post on LinkedIn. Briony said I need to post on LinkedIn. And you're just sat there just looking at a blank screen going like, I don't know. Right. So start to do that. Start to collect ideas as you go. So you've got a repository. And then in terms of like a bit of a process, I have not with me right now, but at home I've got my my whiteboard, and on that I have my goal, my like bigger vision for my life, like looking more at a 5 and 10 year vision. And then I've got my goals. I have my values written out, and then for my values I have my products and services. And then from that I'm like, okay, so what am I selling, right? And I would say we want to try to tune in to what is the strategy behind what I'm posting, right? We don't want to just make noise for the sake of it. And we want to try to practice having a bit of a blend of, say, like talking about our life, like what we're up to, sharing things of value, either inspiration or like educating people about things. We also want to like motivate and inspire, you know, so you're actually maybe sharing from your own journey or like client wins. You're showing people social proof. That's also really important. And then also selling, you know, so occasionally like letting people know, you know, and you can do some storytelling and then selling. Like, I'm a big fan of that. And there's can talk in a moment about different content frameworks that I use for that. But I would say that get some clarity about like the strategy and the vision for your own business, and like have that written out somewhere that you can see. And then broadly speaking, start to think of, okay, what are some topics that you like talking about, but that also fit inside your business, right? So if you're like super into badminton, great, but maybe don't just keep talking about badminton unless you're a badminton coach. So like try to make sure that you're entering some of your humanness into your content. So I'll post content of me like cold water dipping or barefoot hiking, because those are the things that I do. But then I also talk about my coaching. So it's like, let your humanness and your hobbies be seen, make yourself real, but then try to be strategic as well about making sure if you've got a workshop coming up, or there's a coaching program you're going to launch, you want to be talking about that with repetition. So be consistent, be strategic, have clarity on your own business, and then start to think about some like regular content themes that maybe you want to keep touching upon that fit inside of that vision. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I think a coach listening to that would be like, yes, this is all great. But now they're overwhelmed because there's so many things in what you just said, right? So if you're not ready for all of that, I like the posting once a week. That sounded feasible. But then, you know, what is the easiest thing? Like, if you're going to post once a week, what are the easiest, like first 5 posts you could do? like what kinds of things, what might come up in your first month of doing this that you could just like easily post?
Yeah. I mean,
it would be somewhat strategic, you know, assuming they're a coach.
Yeah, definitely. So I would say, for example, like, you know, what's one win that you've had with a client recently? And if you don't have any clients right now and you're still in that place of trying to get clients, focus on your own journey, in terms of like what wins have like worked for you and like challenges that you've overcome. So practice doing some storytelling. You could talk about like content that you're currently learning. You could shout out other people that you're learning from. So you could say, just listened to this amazing podcast with Daniel. Like, these were my 3 key takeaways. So you can kind of start to expand your network by tagging other people in those posts. You could talk about like business anniversaries. Maybe you've been a coach for a little while now and you're like, you still feel like you're in this early stage, but maybe you're like, hey, it's like 3 years in business this year. Like, you know, you can share some of what you've learned in that time. You could easily talk about any like personal stuff that's happening in your life and like reflecting on that, but being discerning about what it is you want to share, right? So still honor your privacy where you feel that you want to, but maybe say it's like been one of your kids' birthdays recently, and maybe you're super grateful you're self-employed because you get to have the whole day like with them and being super present to them. And then say a fifth one could be about like maybe some of the goals that you are still working on, but that you're struggling with, right? So you could share more of like the vision of what you're building towards, but then being authentic in your vulnerability, in terms of like, it's hard because ultimately people don't want to coach that they don't feel safe with. And if you're just presenting a shiny exterior all the time, people don't see that humanness, that vulnerability, that rawness in some aspects. You're not really going to feel like you're authentic, and they probably won't feel fully safe with you.
Yeah, I like that last point on vulnerability, right? It's like to be authentic, you need to be able to show your own vulnerability and to show that you're human, just like them. Right? And I think definitely. Part of the thing that's coming to mind for me is like, this is not just about getting clients, although it is about creating new clients for your business. It's about connecting with the world around us. And there's another level of being to be intentional about that communication. Right? To like actually want to connect with those around you and warm up your network and be in connection with people, have a conversation with people, to be supported, not just to support them, right? Sometimes people are supporting you, sometimes you're supporting them. And in your networking or in your connecting, whoever you connect with, they're not necessarily only going to be clients. They could be referral partners. They could be people, they could become your coach. There's a lot of parts of the puzzle. And if the only thing you're doing is trying to get clients, that energy may not be the only energy you want to transmit, even subconscious.
Yeah.
So I like this authenticity about what you're talking about. And this gives people some good ideas on things they could start posting on today. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I don't know what to post, pick one of those things that Briony just said and post it. Like what's something, I love the one I like the most though is client wins. And so you can do this if you ever have client sessions that like have powerful wins and insights. Hey, client today just realized, bang, what was the realization? You can phrase it whatever way you want, or you can do a verbatim quote. And then like that is, speaks to results, but also tells the people that you're taking clients through a journey, right? And you may be open to clients, right? So I like that client wins. I like the idea of content that comes from your sessions because that's authentically you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying break confidentiality. I'm saying your sessions are a powerful source of content. And when you're on that high after a session, that's a great time to actually post client stuff, like not confidential stuff, post relevant stuff to other people that need that same help, right? Because that's what's going to get people. That's the actual where the value was. You can ask your clients what was most valuable, post that,
Yeah.
So I love that first one that you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. And that's such a great point about the vibe that we're in after a coaching session. Like I often will, most of the time I've developed a habit where like after a client session, I will then record a short video of me reflecting on like the session, like what came up. But as you said, like honoring client confidentiality is like the most important thing. So I will speak very generically. I may not even say like he or she, or just might say like they, and like be very broad in terms of the details, not giving specifics about them. But yeah, it's really powerful because you will be in the energy of the session and like kind of recapping some of like the key moments and what came up. And then, yeah, it's going to deeply speak to some people. And also that practice of like showing up and recording, because, sometimes rarely it will be in one take, right? I mean, nowadays I don't really care so much and I'm well practiced, but like, it might be like 4 or 5 takes sometimes, like, and then sometimes I just give up because I'm like, I can't be bothered. But like, practicing, creating content. And if you're not feeling comfortable behind the camera yet, then yeah, just typing it out so that you've got a written record of that. Because that's also great for your own like belief bank, in terms of like making sure that you see the value that you deliver and the belief that you have in yourself and what you do.
Yeah. And those little videos are really powerful for you to watch later to remind yourself, oh yeah, I can coach people and I can have positive results and effects for those people, which reminds me of something else in the belief. I like the word belief bank. Something you can really do powerfully is watch your own testimonials from your clients. You've had a session or a discovery session, or you've had clients go through a journey with you, get testimonials.
Yeah.
And then use those testimonials on yourself, but you can also post them as content, right? And make sure that you're plugged into the energy of the power that you have as a coach. And remember, people need you. People are out there needing you. And if you're not visible, they're not going to find you. And if the right people are seeing your testimonials from people just like them, or seeing your energy from people that need that kind of energy, and every coach is different, the more you're out there practicing and doing the reps, as you say, Briony, the more you're going to practice using your voice. And if you're not comfortable in front of a camera, you don't have to do video, but I would encourage you to get comfortable in front of a camera. But you can do written, you can do graphics, you can do all kinds of things. You can, do long form articles, you can do short little posts, you can use other people's content and do reshare it or retweet it or whatever you want to do with it. You don't even have to come up with it yourself. So if you're not sure and you don't want to say anything, use somebody else's words. Send them, post a link to that thing. Say like, hey, I just read this article. Here's what I liked about it. What do you think? Like, there's so many low barrier ways that your overthinking is preventing you from accessing. So, I really appreciate all this wisdom from you, Briony, today. Is there anything you'd like to share in addition as a parting thought for our members who are all coaches? And by the way, coaches, if you're listening to this and you want more support, go to cmc.coach and join our free community on Facebook, where we are there to support you. And we have a pro membership, but the community on Facebook is totally free. And if you'd like to join our membership, absolutely, we support you every week in getting clients. But like, digital marketing is just one part of the puzzle, and you don't have to do digital marketing. But if you do, there's some really powerful stuff that Briony just shared with you that you can go implement today, right now. So, Briony, any last words of encouragement, advice, or recommendations? What's the top thing you want people to take away?
Well, actually, it ties into what you just shared there. And I feel like I 100% would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the help of coaches. And I'm not just saying this as like, oh, isn't that a convenient little marketing ploy? But like, we're in this business for a reason, right? Like, I am a coach because of coaches, in terms of like, I needed their support. People have radically changed my life. And I think what you're offering in terms of that free support and community is incredible. And I would say surround yourself, like immerse yourself, drown yourself in other people who are doing awesome things like this, who are speaking the way you speak, who are thinking the way you want to think, who are out there doing things, getting results. I think surround yourself with those people, learn from them, and continue to invest in yourself. Like, when you feel the call and you feel like you're ready, continue to invest in your own learning, because like, it is utterly worth it. So it's just to put a shout out to like what the work you're doing, Daniel, and like the community, and how important that is. Because I also have like all sorts of other coaching buddies and communities and things that I'm a part of as well.
We all need that. We're all human.
Yes, exactly. And I guess my parting message is more that invitation for people to really remember that, like, I remember early on when I was having a bit of a crisis about like, does no one care about what I do? And getting in my head with that is, I really I was journaling and I was reflecting deeply, and I suddenly had this really clear message of like that, ultimately, like everyone in this life, we all individually have our own message to share. And another teacher said, like, each one of us is born with a closed fist, and over the course of our lifetime, that fist will open, and inside it, like, is a special gift. And the gift that each one of us has is unique to us, right? And I feel that like on this journey, we're like slowly opening our hand and we're like showing the world like the gift that's there. So it's like, you got to keep going, and your gift is unique to you. And even if there's just one person out there that needs to hear your message, it will be because it's from you, right? So it's like practicing, remembering that if you feel this impulse and drive to be coaching, you're doing it for a reason. Like, you owe it to yourself and also to the other people around you to show up and to like give that gift, and like not to let that, like, Wayne Dyer says, don't die with the music still inside of you, right? It's like, give what you're here to give in this lifetime, right? So have the courage to keep letting that come through, and know that it's a hugely heroic journey, massive hero's journey to like to do this. So a challenge is all a part of it, which is why you need the community around you to help you and support you.
Briony, thank you so much for that. That was beautiful, and I like the closed fist metaphor. I hadn't actually heard that, like, it opens over time. I like that. I'm surprised. That sounds like a really like catchy analogy. So, but I love that. Like, we open. This is kind of like the first mountain, the second mountain. When you open up to serve the world. And coaches are doing really important work to open and share their gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, Briony, how can people find you? Where do we go to find you?
Right. So, well, this is another coaching tip on mistakes that coaches make. No, it's I have mainly three platforms that I use. So LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can go and find me there. Just Briony Gunson. And on Instagram, same thing, Briony Gunson, and also my website, brionygunson.com. So
Briony
yeah, and then
Gunson.
Gunson, yeah, like son of a gun.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, Briony,
So,
thanks
yeah.
so much for your time today. Really appreciate you on the podcast. It was awesome. Maybe we should do this again sometime.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, well, definitely, I'd be up for that.
I really appreciate your authentic approach to this and your reminder to people that, just go practice, because that's very much in line with what we tell our members of our community. Is like, you got to go get the reps, go build the muscle, go get the reps. It's the same language we're using because it's really true. You can't get great at something until you do enough reps at it. So, Briony, thank you so much. And
thank you.
We'll hopefully catch you again on another episode of the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, sending lots of love to all your community. Thank you.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.